Good morning, grade fours. Today we're going to be looking at our first math lesson. We are looking at multiplication, and our first unit is going to be looking in more detail at how to multiply, the best ways to remember multiplication tables, and that sort of thing. So I thought I'd start with this sort of scary looking box. Everybody's probably seen this. This is the 10 times tables. And the way the times tables work, just in case you aren't sure, I'm just going to grab a pen here. The way the times tables work is they work by these are the columns, sorry, these are the rows, these are the columns. And wherever the columns and the rows intersect, that is an answer to a multiplication problem. So, for example, say I wanted to know what 5 times 7 was. Well, if I follow the 5 across the column to here and follow the 7 down to here, 35 is the answer to 5 times 7. So I can do it with any number. If I wanted to find out what 8 times 4 was, whoops, I went too far. 8 times 4, right? Or if I want to do 3 times 5, I'm going to follow it down to the 15. So it basically works that way. And it's actually a really effective tool for remembering the times tables. However, if we have to memorize the times tables, it's a bit intimidating. It means it's a bit scary because there are a lot of numbers here. I'm not sure if you know how many numbers are on here, but not including the 1 to 10 here and the 1 to 10 here, there are actually 81 answers on here that you need to memorize from 1 to 10. So that is the 10 times table. So 81 is a pretty big number of stuff to memorize. But I wanted to break it down a little bit because, in fact, there really aren't 81 things on here that you need to memorize. And let me explain. First of all, in math, when you multiply, if I multiply, for example, 4 times 5, and I get the answer 20. So 4, what just happened? So I want 4 times 5, and I get 20. There's my answer. What I need to understand is that I can get 4 times 5 is 20, but I also can get, so here's my 4 times 5 is 20, but I can also get 5 times 4 is 20. So 4 times 5 and 5 times 4 are actually the same question. We've just swapped the order of the 4 and the 5. So you get the same answer. What that means is all of the repeated numbers, so here's a repeated 6, I don't need to know that. The repeated 8, I don't need to know that. The repeated 12, all these numbers that show up twice, I don't really need to know. So for example, the 30, it's over here because this is 30 times 6 times 5, and this is 6 times 5 over here, 5 times 6. So these are all repeats. I don't need to know any of them because they're all going to show up on the other side of the table. So in fact, if I block all those out, I block them out in green here, those numbers are repeats. They show up twice. Here's my 6, here's my 12, here's my 10 over here. So I only need to know the ones here that are in white. Well, do I really? Let's think about what we already know in multiplication without really having to think about it very hard. If I look at the tens, for example, we all know, or we should know, that any number multiplied by 10, you just stick a 0 on the end of the number you're multiplying it by. So 2 times 10 is 20, 3 times 10 is 30. If I wanted to do 243 times 10, it's just going to be 2,430. I just stick a 0 on the end. So in fact, these ones you don't need to memorize because they're too easy. You just put a 0 on the end of whatever you're multiplying. So I don't really need those either. I don't have to memorize those. because I just know that whatever number here multiplies by the 10, I just put a 0 on the end. So I don't have to know those. So that makes our job a little bit easier. Now, you may or you may not know the trick about multiplying your 9 times tables. There is a fancy trick for knowing those numbers. It's actually really cool and really easy. And it's true because we have 10 fingers. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, what do fingers have to do with multiplication? Well, I'm going to show you a little video, and the video explains how to do it. It's really cool. If you haven't seen it before, if you don't know how to do the 9 times tables trick with your fingers, this is going to show you how to do it. And it makes it really easy. So here's the video. And hopefully the sound works.
Full-time kid with Maya. Hi, I'm Maya. Today's video is about hands. Your hands can help you do a lot of stuff, like say hi, high five, shake hands, and clean your room, and brush your teeth, and eat chocolate. But did you know your hands can help you multiply? I'm going to teach you a cool way to learn your 9 times tables. Put your hands in front of you with your palms facing you, like this. Your fingers represent the numbers 1 through 10. 1 is your left thumb, 10 is your right thumb. Now you're ready to do your 9 times tables. Let's see, the question is 9 times 4. Count to the 4th finger and curl that finger under. Now you have 3 fingers up before that finger and 6 fingers up after it. So the answer is 36. Let's try 9 times 8. Put the 8th finger down so that you have 7 fingers up before the finger that you curled under, and 2 fingers afterward. So the answer is 72. It works with all of your fingers. 9 times 1 is 9. 9 times 2 is 18. 9 times 3 is 27. 9 times 4 is 36. 9 times 5 is 45. 9 times 6 is 54. 9 times 7 is 63. 9 times 8 is 72. 9 times 9 is 81. And 9 times 10 is 90. Cool, right? But my favorite thing to do with my hands is dance. But I'll save that for the next video. I hope you had fun. Tune in next time to learn more about my life being a full-time kid. Bye! I'm going to teach you a cool way.
Okay, so hopefully that made it clear to you that you can use your hands pretty easily to do the 9 times tables, which means you don't have to actually memorize your 9s, right? We've got all of these in blue here. So if you look at now, the number that you actually have to memorize is pretty small. There's not that many. In fact, there's only 28 multiplications here that you need to memorize. Most of you, or a lot of you, may already know your 2 times tables, so that makes it even smaller, brings it down to 21. And a lot of you probably know your 5 times tables, because the 5 times tables is just skip counting by 5s. And that's one of the first things we learn, right? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, and so forth. So you might not even need to memorize your 5s, which means that you only have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 multiplications to memorize, and that will give you your whole 10 times table. So that's pretty cool when you think of it that way. It's really not that much. So this is a breakdown of the ones you need to memorize. Basically, if you don't know your 2s yet, and if you don't know your 5s yet, these are the ones you need to memorize. So for homework, what I want you to take a look at tonight or today are the 2s and the 3s. And you don't have to do 2 times 1, and you don't have to do 2 times 9 or 2 times 10. All right, so just a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 times 2, and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 times 3. So take a look at these for homework. So, and we're going to do a couple of these a day or a week perhaps. And then eventually I have a cool thing planned for the class that is going to be coming up either tomorrow or the next day. I haven't figured out yet if the technology is going to work. I'm hoping. But what I want to do is play a game with the class using a video conference, because the Google has a really cool video conference software app that we can all access. And I could actually get you to log in so that we're all watching each other's screens at the same time. We can see each other using our cameras. And I'm going to play a game. We're going to play a little game, boys versus girls, and it's going to be fun. And hopefully it works. Anyway, it's going to be using the times tables. So the next thing I want to show you, and this is again ties into the work that I'm going to give you today, is how we can understand how things like 2 times 3 is the same as 3 times 2, or 3 times 6 is the same as 6 times 3. So if I take a look at something like 2 times 3, like this, right? So there's my 2 times 3, and I reversed it to 3 times 2 over here. And the answer, of course, is 6 for both of them. This is called a math fact family. 3 and 2 and 6 are related because 2 times 3 is 6, right? 3 times 2 is 6. 6 divided by 3, that means you put 3 goes into 6 twice. Here's my 2. And 6 divided by 2, that means the number of 2's that are in 6 is 3. So these 3 numbers, 3, 2, and 6, are closely related, and we call that relation a fact family. Now, the cool thing about fact families is if you can remember that these 3 numbers go together, then not only do you remember the multiplication of 2 times 3 equals 6, you'll also remember that 6 divided by 2 is 3. So it's sort of like killing 2 birds with 1 stone. It's like doing 2 jobs when you only really are doing one thing. So one of the things for homework that I'm going to give you, and I'm going to upload a sheet in a little while to Google Classroom, is looking at math fact families this way. All right. So let's take a look at another one. So one of the things that if you have trouble memorizing, this is a really good way to memorize. All right. You make a triangle. You cover one of the numbers, and then get your friends to say, okay, which number is missing? And then they'll have to know that it's a 6. And over here, well, which number is missing? They'll have to know it's a 2. And then here, which number is missing? They'll have to know it's a 3. So here's another example. So say 7, right? This is a fact family of 7 times 6 equals 42. So if I cover the 42, well, then you're going to know, well, it's 7 times 6, whatever that number is, which is a 42. If I cover the 7, obviously I'm not going to ask you to multiply 42 times 6. So you're going to know that, well, this is division. How many 6's are in 42? There are 7. And then if I cover the 6, you're going to go, well, how many 7's are in 42? Well, there are 6. So this, hey, it's a tree. So this is a neat way to sort of memorize your fact families. So that's the lesson for today. The work I'm going to give you is related to fact families. I'm going to be having you write out some fact families using those triangle sort of ideas. Look for that to be posted shortly. And also, so you have 2 things to do. One is to memorize your 2's and 3 facts. And then the other one is the fact sheet, fact family sheet, which I'm going to be posting in about 15 minutes. That's all for today. And stay tuned, because we're going to try and do that video conference tomorrow if we can. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesday. It looks like it's going to be a pretty nice day out there. Talk to you later.